There's a kind of tiredness that doesn't show on the face. It lives in the bones, and some people carry it for decades. They work hard, love deeply, give more than they take, and still, life never seems to give back. But what if their hands have been holding the answer all along? Not a magic trick, not superstition. Just quiet signs etched in the palm, hinting at a future that arrives not early but just in time. In many Eastern traditions, it's believed that certain lines and shapes in the hand don't predict fame or fast success. Instead, they reflect a life story, who carries burden early and who receives peace, respect, and even wealth later. This video explores 9 rare palm signs found in people who often struggle young, sometimes painfully so, but who blossom in their 60s and beyond. People who don't peak at 30 or 40, but who come into their own when the world expects them to slow down. Whether you believe in destiny, energy, or just the quiet patterns of a long life, these signs don't guarantee riches, but they do suggest that late-blooming fortune isn't just possible, it's earned. If you've ever wondered why you gave your best years to others and received little in return, maybe these signs will help you see your story differently. Not everything happens on time. Some things arrive when we're finally ready to receive them. Sign 1. Square nails plus long, bamboo-like fingers. Look at your hands, not just the lines, but the shape, the way your fingers extend, the structure of your nails, the way they rest when you're not trying to control them. If your nails are naturally square-shaped and your fingers are long, slender, and straight like little bamboo stalks, you may have been born with a pattern not of fast success, but of quiet, late-blooming prosperity. In many traditions, this hand shape is rarely seen and even more rarely appreciated. People with this feature often move through life slowly, not because they lack ambition, but because they value steadiness more than speed. Square nails suggest a deep sense of inner order. These are the people who make careful decisions, who don't jump on trends or chase what's flashy. They build routines. They keep promises. They choose the long road and they stay on it. That can feel like a disadvantage when you're young, surrounded by louder voices and faster movers. But life, especially in America, is not a sprint, even when it's treated like one. And people with these hands often find that their quiet pace starts to make more sense after 60. As others burn out, they are still standing. As others look back with regret, they're just beginning to feel ready. Bamboo fingers add a layer of grace. These hands don't grasp tightly or compete loudly. They belong to people who often care too much, feel too deeply, and spend years being underestimated. They let others shine first. They don't interrupt. They notice details, and in their youth, this can be mistaken for weakness or passivity. But over time, it becomes their greatest strength. Because the world eventually softens, fast energy fades, and people who were once overlooked begin to be seen. Those with this hand shape don't usually ask for much. They often want only enough to live simply, to support those they love, to feel safe. And yet in so many cases, life gives them more than they expected, not through luck, but through patience. Their wealth doesn't arrive in a rush. It gathers quietly like water behind a dam. Investments mature, property value grows. A small business they once built slowly becomes their retirement income. Their children grow up to be grateful, generous, and their own name, spoken quietly their whole life, starts to carry weight. This type of person doesn't fear aging. In fact, the older they get, the more clearly their values align with the life they are building. While others chase reinvention, they find comfort in deeper roots. They don't need to change everything. They've been becoming themselves all along. And so at 65 or 70, when the world finally slows to their pace, they enter their most authentic, abundant chapter. Not showy, not loud, but rich in every way that matters. If your hands carry this shape, and you felt invisible or behind, maybe you're not late at all. Maybe you're just perfectly timed for a different kind of season. The kind that doesn't rush, doesn't shout, but lasts longer and goes deeper. You don't have to believe in palmistry to understand the power of a life lived in rhythm with who you truly are. These hands don't predict success. They reflect it. Not the kind that wins awards or fills headlines, but the kind that fills a home with warmth, a calendar with freedom, and a heart with peace. So if your nails are square and your fingers stretch like calm reeds in the wind, don't wish they looked different. They may be holding the very future you've quietly been working toward all along. Sign 2, an X formed by the head and heart lines. There's a kind of strength that doesn't come from success, but from survival. And sometimes the mark of that quiet strength is hiding right in your palm. If you look closely and see that your headline and heart line cross to form a clear X in the center of your hand, you may be carrying one of the rarest and most telling signs of a late-blooming life. Most people's head and heart lines run side by side. They stay in their own lanes, logic separate from emotion. But when those lines cross, they tell a deeper story of someone who has felt too much, thought too much, and endured more than they ever shared out loud. People with this mark are often different from a young age. They see things others don't. They read between the lines. They notice pain before it's spoken. And because of that, they often feel alone, even in a crowd. They might be surrounded by family or friends, yet carry a loneliness that no one can quite understand. This X isn't a mark of luck. It's a mark of someone shaped by hardship and made wise through it. In their youth, people with this mark usually face emotional losses that others don't see coming. A betrayal that cut deep, a family dynamic that left them unseen, a relationship that demanded everything but gave little back. And yet they keep going, quietly. They don't break down in front of others. They hold themselves together, and over time that pain becomes depth. Their thinking sharpens. Their heart doesn't harden, but it does grow stronger. They begin to make choices with more care. They no longer chase people or things that drain them. Instead, they become more discerning, more centered. And as they age, that balance between mind and heart, so rare in a fast world, becomes their power. Around midlife, something shifts. While others burn out or become bitter, those with this X often rise, not loudly, not in flashy ways, but with quiet certainty. They start to attract the right people, the ones who see their worth without being asked. They find work that aligns with their values. They earn respect not just for what they do, but for how they carry themselves. And then after 60, life finally seems to meet them where they are. For some, that means financial stability after decades of trying. For others, it's a second career or late passion that finally blooms. For many, it's peace, real, earned, unshakable. The X on your palm isn't a guarantee, but it is a reflection of all the times you stayed kind when you could have been cold, of all the moments you listened instead of shouting, of all the heartbreaks you didn't let define you. And in a world that rushes toward the next thing, people like you, the ones who took longer, felt deeper, fell harder, often create the most lasting beauty in the end. You may have spent your early life feeling like you were always behind. But the truth is, you were building something others can't see. Emotional clarity, quiet wisdom, and a strength that doesn't need to prove itself. If you carry this X, your reward isn't just wealth or recognition. It's something rarer, a life that's yours, built on your own timing, filled with meaning, and finally free from the weight of what wasn't. So when you look at your palm and see that intersection, that X where logic and feeling met and refused to stay separate, know that you've been carrying the blueprint of your late bloom all along. It just needed time to rise. Sign 3, hammer-shaped hands. Some hands don't just hold tools, they hold entire households together. If your hands are wide, solid, with thicker fingers and a firm grip, what some call hammer-shaped, you might be someone who's been carrying more than your share for a very long time. People with this type of hand often grow up fast, not because they wanted to, but because life didn't give them a choice. They are the ones who started working early, the ones who figured out how to stretch a dollar when no one else could. They took care of siblings, supported parents, handled things others never even noticed, and they rarely complained, because deep down they never expected anyone else to carry the weight for them. Hammer-shaped hands belong to people who get things done even when no one is watching. They fix what breaks. They make sure bills get paid. They do what needs to be done, quietly, steadily, without asking for thanks. And because of that, they're often overlooked. Their sacrifices don't show up in photo albums. Their names aren't in headlines, but their fingerprints are on every good thing that's lasted. In their younger years, people with these hands often live with constant pressure. Financial strain, family responsibilities, little room to dream, but somehow they keep going. They rarely ask for help, not because they're proud, but because they know what it feels like to be let down. So they become their own safety net, their own backup plan, their own anchor. And over time, that self-reliance becomes something unshakable. Others may see them as stubborn, but really they're just tired of making excuses. They know what it takes to build a life from the ground up, and they don't want to waste time on shortcuts. What's remarkable is that the universe rarely forgets this kind of quiet service. It may take decades, but somewhere around age 60 or 65, life begins to ease up for these individuals. The bills settle. The home becomes peaceful. Children, once demanding, start to give back. People who once leaned on them begin to look up to them, not because they changed, but because they finally have space to be seen. And the respect they've quietly earned begins to come full circle. These hands may not hold fame, but they hold legacy. They hold wisdom learned the hard way. They hold stories too personal to share and strength too deep to measure. And that strength, forged over years of effort and endurance, becomes a kind of wealth that money can't touch. But that money often follows. In later life, people with hammer-shaped hands often find stability they never thought they'd have. A pension, a home that's finally paid off, kids who are doing okay, maybe even thriving. And most importantly, a sense of peace. Not because everything's perfect, but because they know they did their part. They carried what they had to carry, and they're still standing. If this is you, if your hands have been tools of survival, if they've fixed and lifted and held more than anyone ever realized, then know this: your reward may not have come early, but it's coming. The life you quietly built is stronger than it looks. And now, finally, you get to rest a little. Not because you're weak, but because you've earned it. So when you look at your hands and see the shape of work, of effort, of responsibility, don't wish them softer. Don't wish they had it easier. They were made to build something that lasts. And now they get to hold the comfort that only comes after a lifetime of doing right by others. That's not just fortune, it's legacy. Sign 4, deeply sunken palm. Some people hold wealth in their hands long before they ever hold it in their lives. If you gently cup your palm and notice the center dips inward, forming a soft, natural hollow, you may be carrying one of the quietest, most meaningful signs of late-life prosperity. In some traditions, a sunken palm is called the wealth bowl. But this isn't about winning the lottery. It's not about shortcuts or chance. This is a sign seen most often in those who have lived with discipline, generosity, and restraint, not because they had to be perfect, but because life taught them early how to manage without excess. A sunken palm doesn't show up in youth. It deepens with time, shaped by how you live. That hollow center holds the invisible things: patience, gratitude, the habit of saving not just money but energy. And often, the people who carry this mark have spent much of their life doing what was right, even when no one noticed. They gave when it hurt. They forgave when it wasn't deserved. They chose peace over pride. And for years, it may have felt like life didn't reward them for it. But this kind of wealth doesn't bloom fast. It grows slowly, quietly, and only ripens in the hands of those who have built it the long way. People with deeply sunken palms often struggle with finances in their early life. Money comes in but seems to vanish. Opportunities appear, then disappear. They work hard, but always seem to be starting over, and yet they don't stop trying. They keep giving their best even when it feels unseen. They don't chase quick wins, they value what lasts. And that mindset, that energy, shapes everything. As the years pass, these people tend to become magnets for unexpected blessings. Not because they demand it, but because they've created space for it. A grown child who once needed help now returns the favor. An old debt is repaid out of the blue. A home they bought years ago triples in value. A simple life becomes a steady one, and they find themselves, finally, with enough. enough security, enough peace, enough to stop counting. The power of a sunken palm is that it doesn't try to hold everything at once. It lets go. It creates room. And in doing so, it receives. That's the lesson at the heart of this sign. You don't need to chase abundance. You just need to stop blocking it. You don't need to grasp harder. You need to trust what you've already planted. And if you've lived a life of patience, humility, and quiet service, this sign says your harvest is not behind you. It's still ahead. The deepest part of your palm is not a void, it's a well, a place where good things gather, and the older you get, the more it fills. If you see this shape in your own hand, take heart. Maybe life hasn't always been fair. Maybe you felt like your efforts went unnoticed. But this mark suggests that what you've given to your family, your community, your past didn't disappear. It's coming back, slowly maybe, quietly, but surely. This is the shape of someone who no longer needs to rush, who doesn't need to prove anything, who finally gets to live in the home they built emotionally and materially. It's not about being rich in every way, but about being rich in the right ways. If your palm dips like a small bowl, know this: your life has been gathering. And one day, when you least expect it, everything you once gave will return. Not just in dollars, but in peace, in freedom, and in the quiet joy of knowing you have enough, because you became enough. Sign 5, prominent thumb. Some hands don't ask for permission, they carve their own path. And when the thumb stands strong, straight, and noticeably more prominent than the other fingers, it's often more than a quirk of anatomy. It's a symbol of a will that never bent easily, of someone who was never afraid to go alone. In the language of the hands, a strong, upright thumb reflects inner authority. Not arrogance, not control, but the kind of self-respect that says, "I'll figure it out myself." People with this feature rarely live smooth, easy lives in their early years. They often take the hard way, not because they want to suffer, but because they can't bring themselves to follow what doesn't feel right. They walk away from comfort that comes with strings attached. They say no when others expect a yes. They refuse to pretend just to fit in. And that resistance, that independence comes at a cost. In their 20s or 30s, they may look like the late bloomers, the ones who didn't take off quickly. Their peers might climb faster, collect more titles, check more boxes, but this person, they're building slow, on values, on clarity, on the kind of ground that doesn't crack under pressure. A prominent thumb suggests someone who's used to holding their own. Maybe they grew up being told they were too stubborn or too proud. Maybe they had to make adult choices long before they were ready. Maybe they learned early on that depending on others often led to disappointment. So they decided to depend on themselves. And for years, that might have felt lonely. But what looked like stubbornness on the outside was something else inside: integrity. The refusal to live a life that didn't feel real. And over time, that choice starts to pay off. These individuals don't burn out because they never sprinted. They don't fall apart when life gets hard, because they've already faced worse. And as they move through midlife and beyond, they don't chase because they've learned to attract. After 60, many people with this thumb shape begin to experience a kind of peace they never had before. The work they poured into quietly becomes recognized. Their word carries weight. Opportunities come not because they asked, but because they've earned trust. And their success, if you can call it that, isn't just financial, it's personal. They get to live life on their terms, to finally breathe without feeling behind. These aren't the loudest people in the room, but when they speak, people listen. They're not always the easiest to persuade, but when they commit to something, they see it through. And as they grow older, they become the anchor in many people's lives, the ones you call when things fall apart. The ones who don't panic, who don't gossip, who just hold steady. If you have a strong, prominent thumb, your story is probably not one of shortcuts. It's a story of showing up, of choosing the long way again and again because it felt right, even when no one else understood. And now you're reaching a chapter where that consistency becomes your greatest gift. You may not be wildly wealthy, but you're deeply grounded. And that in today's world is rare. What you've built cannot be taken easily because it wasn't given. It was earned, one clear decision, one quiet act of integrity at a time. So look at your thumb, not as a physical detail, but as a reminder of the times you stood your ground, of the values you held even when they cost you, of the life you've shaped with your own hands. And know this, while others chased approval, you built character. While others ran fast, you went far. And the road ahead at last opens not with noise, but with quiet earned arrival. Sign 6, career line starting from heart line. Some careers don't start with ambition, they start with heartbreak. If your palm shows a career line, also called the fate line, that begins not from the base of your hand, but from the heart line, you may be someone whose path in life wasn't built on strategy, but on emotional awakening. This mark is rare, and it tells a quiet story of someone who once gave everything to someone else. Their time, their love, their energy. People with this sign often live their early life wrapped around another person's orbit. They might lose themselves in a relationship or pour so much into others that they forget to ask what they want for themselves. And it works until it doesn't, because at some point something breaks. A divorce, a betrayal, a slow realization that love alone can't carry the weight of two people's lives. And when that moment comes, it doesn't just hurt, it reshapes everything. For people with this line, that pain becomes the turning point. The career line starts at the heart line because the journey forward is born from emotional clarity. It's the moment they stop living for someone else and start living for themselves, not selfishly but honestly. The second act of their life often begins late, in their 40s, 50s, sometimes even later, but once it begins, it moves with purpose. They discover new skills, often ones they'd ignored before. They return to school, start a business, write, teach, counsel. Their careers may be unconventional, but they are deeply personal, because what they do now is rooted in lived experience, and that kind of work resonates. People trust them not because of a resume, but because of presence, wisdom, depth. For years, they may have felt behind, like they missed their window, like they gave too much and got too little, but the truth is they were being prepared. Their past wasn't wasted. It was compost, quietly nourishing something they hadn't yet grown. And now it blooms. Around age 60 or 65, people with this sign often reach a kind of success they never thought possible. Not just financial, but soulful. They're no longer trying to prove anything. They've made peace with what didn't work, and now they give from a full cup. Their life has shape, purpose, and the joy they feel isn't flashy, but it's real. If you see this line in your hand, and you've lived through emotional loss, sacrifice, or disappointment, know this. Your life didn't end in that heartbreak. It began. You are not broken, you're becoming. This sign isn't about being late, it's about being ready. And now, with everything you've learned, everything you've endured, you are. Sign 7. M-shaped palm. There's something quietly powerful about a person who never quite fits the mold. Someone who sees too much, questions early, feels deeper than their age should allow. If you look at your palm and see the lines, your lifeline, headline, and heartline, intersecting in a way that forms a clear capital M, you may be one of those rare individuals, not loud, not ordinary, but meant to lead in a way the world only understands later. The M-shaped palm is not a guarantee of status or recognition. It's not about popularity or early success. It's a sign of deep intuition, sharp insight, and a unique path that unfolds slowly. People with this marking often feel offbeat in their early years. They don't follow trends easily. They ask hard questions. They feel disconnected even when surrounded by others. And as children or young adults, this can be painful. They may be labeled too serious, too quiet, too intense, but that inner difference is not a flaw, it's preparation. The M is a pattern often found in those who were born to guide, not always through formal power, but through presence, through clarity, through the quiet way they hold space when others fall apart. In their 20s and 30s, these people may struggle. They may try on careers or relationships that don't fit, sensing there's something more but not yet knowing what. But they keep growing internally, reading the room, watching closely, learning not just facts but people. And then somewhere around midlife, something clicks. They stop trying to be understood, and they begin to lead not by force but by alignment. Others start to come to them for advice, for clarity, for calm. And whether they realize it or not, they begin to shape the emotional tone of the people around them. Their leadership is subtle but lasting. In professional settings, they often step into roles that allow them to mentor, guide, or influence. In personal life, they become the grounding presence in their family. They're not perfect, but they're trusted, and trust in the long run is more valuable than charm. By the time they reach their 60s, many with an M-shaped palm find themselves not just successful, but deeply respected. They might be running a business they once started as a side project. They may be teaching, writing, counseling, or simply being the one everyone turns to in a crisis. And even if they've never been rich in the conventional sense, they carry a wealth of stability, wisdom, and quiet confidence that others lean on. If you see this shape in your hand, and if you've always felt a little different, a little older than your age, this sign might help you understand why. You were never behind. You were just on a path that didn't rush. You were gathering insight, not attention. And now your time has come. The M in your palm isn't just about destiny, it's about timing. And if you're entering your later years feeling more clear, more calm, more ready than ever before, that's not coincidence. That's alignment. You don't need applause. You don't need to explain yourself. You've spent years becoming the kind of person who makes others feel safe, seen, and steady. And that gift, that's your legacy. Let the world call it leadership. Let your hands call it home. Sign 8. Career line starts faint, grows clearer. Some people don't start strong, not because they lack talent, but because their path isn't supposed to be obvious. If your career line, the one running vertically up your palm, is faint or broken in its early stages, but becomes clearer and more defined as it moves upward, this may be your story. And it's a powerful one. This line pattern reflects the life of someone who's had to figure it out the hard way. Someone who didn't find their calling in school, didn't land the dream job early, didn't feel certain of their place. It's the mark of those who tried, and failed, and tried again, and who quietly wondered if they were just meant to stay stuck. People with this sign often spend the first half of life chasing many things and catching none. They explore different careers. They take on jobs out of necessity. They feel like they are running in circles, watching others climb while they're still trying to find a ladder. And they carry a quiet weight, the fear that maybe they missed their moment, that maybe this is as good as it gets. But this line says otherwise. The faint start of your career line doesn't mean you lack direction. It means your direction wasn't meant to come all at once. It means you were collecting pieces, skills, strength, self-awareness, that only later begin to form a clear shape. And when that happens, it's not gradual, it's defining. Because by the time your line strengthens, you're no longer guessing, you're grounded. You've tried enough to know what fits. And more importantly, you've failed enough to know what doesn't. That's not weakness, that's experience. And experience is what makes the second half of your life more focused, more intentional, and more rewarding. People with this line often enter their 50s or 60s with a kind of quiet authority. They may not have the fanciest title, but when they speak, people listen. When they work, things get done. And when they choose something, it's with full presence. Whether it's a consulting business, creative pursuit, leadership role, or even mentorship, this is when they begin to truly bloom. It's also the time when support begins to show up. Old connections resurface. A long-lost friend makes an offer. A former boss calls with an opportunity, and it feels sudden. But it's not. It's the return of every seed planted during the years no one was watching. This sign tells the story of someone who didn't peak early. But when they rise with stability. Not driven by ego, but by clarity. Not fueled by competition, but by consistency. Their later life success may not make headlines, but it brings peace, predictable income, purposeful days, a calendar filled with what matters. If this is your line and your life has felt slow to start, don't see that as failure. See it as refinement. You were never lost. You were just growing in the dark. And now your roots are strong. And your time is here. The faint beginning didn't define you, but the clear continuation, that's your legacy. Sign 9. Career line starts from headline. Some people build slowly, not because they lack drive, but because they refuse to build on anything that doesn't feel solid. If your career line starts not from the base of your palm, but from the headline, a horizontal line that runs across the center of your hand, it often means your professional life began not with passion or emotion, but with thought, with clarity, with decisions shaped by reason, not impulse. This is the mark of someone who doesn't follow the crowd. They move at their own pace, make deliberate choices, and stay with them. Not because they are afraid to change, but because they've already thought things through. People with this sign often start slowly, not because they're behind, but because they don't chase what doesn't align. In their younger years, they may look cautious. Others may rise faster, grab headlines, make noise. But these individuals don't get distracted by applause. They're not here to impress. They're here to build something that lasts. And while others jump between jobs or chase trends, these people commit. They grow one brick at a time. Their careers are rarely flashy, but they are steady, respected, built on substance. They ask questions before signing contracts. They watch people before placing trust. They make plans not just for tomorrow, but for 5, 10, even 20 years out. And over time, that quiet discipline pays off. By the time they reach their 50s or 60s, they've often achieved something rare, a life that makes sense. Not one built on borrowed time or borrowed dreams, but one crafted from within. Their finances are usually stable, their relationships calm, their days structured by what matters most. And even more important than what they've built is how they built it, with integrity, with attention, with the kind of wisdom that doesn't need to say much to be felt. If this is your line, you may not have taken shortcuts, but you've taken the right road. Your early life may have felt slow, but slow gave you time to learn, to study people, to refine your values, and now your later years are becoming what your younger self always hoped they could be. If you've lived with reason, with thoughtfulness, with clarity, even when it made you feel like the odd one out, know this: your line is strong because you are. And the life you're living now or about to live is not a lucky accident. It's a reflection of everything you once chose when no one else was looking. So look at your hand and see that start from the headline not as hesitation, but as wisdom. The kind that takes time, but never wastes it. Final, maybe what you've seen in your palm today isn't new. Maybe it's something you've always felt, quietly, an intuition, a knowing that your story was never meant to peak early, that your life has always been unfolding on its own timeline. These 9 signs don't promise miracles. They don't guarantee wealth or applause. What they offer is something deeper, a mirror, a way to look at the path you've walked and see it not as broken or delayed, but as building. Because late-blooming lives are not failed ones. They are simply lives that needed more time, more depth, more soul. And if your hands carry even one of these markings, maybe it's a reminder that your patience, your endurance, your quiet integrity, they've all been leading somewhere. Science tells us our hands are maps of nerve endings and movement memory. But tradition tells us they also carry the imprint of how we've lived. And when both speak, when biology and story meet, maybe there's truth to be found in both. You don't have to believe in fate to feel seen by these signs. You just have to believe that everything you've carried hasn't been for nothing. So wherever you are on your journey, still struggling, just beginning to feel ease, or finally arriving into peace, I hope this video offered you a little clarity, or at least comfort. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening with your heart. And whatever your hand holds next, may it be soft, may it be steady, and may it be yours.